All right, hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to go through and show you how to use the Python library called Faker to help you generate some fake data for your projects. I think it's a pretty cool library. I came across this a couple of years ago when I was trying to create data for an application that I was building that was connected to a Postgres database, and then all of the data was pulled into a data visualization tool, specifically Power BI. And in order for me to create the visualizations that match the client's real world data, I needed, of course, some fake data to work with. I had searched for Kaggle and a couple of the other online sources for fake data, and they just didn't match the unique use case. So ever since then, I kind of just go with, hey, I want to generate some fake data, and I'm just going to use faker data, especially if I'm using this for testing for application purposes, even some of my machine learning projects or data visualization. So I wanted to take an opportunity to record this video because I'm about to jump onto a larger project which uses Apache Superset for visualizations. And I want to extend this data into a couple different test cases, a Postgres, a React application, and also could change out the visualizations from Apache Superset to Chart.js. So I need it to work with a couple different use cases. So this data is going to cover projects, and each project is going to have a monthly budget. It's going to have a category that it falls under, and then it's also going to have invoices from vendors for at least 1 year's worth of data. So that's the objective in mind, and we are going to jump right in. I am using VS Code as my preferred IDE. You can use whatever you'd like. You want to make sure that you create a virtual environment because we are using Python, and you'll need to install 2 packages. You'll need to install Faker, and you'll need to install Pandas. Now the rest of the packages that we'll import are already built in with Python, or that you won't need to import separately. But make sure you create a virtual environment, select your interpreter. I'm using Python 13, and pip install your Pandas and Faker libraries. Once you've got that ready to go, we can start. So I'm going to start from Faker, import Faker. Next one is we're going to import Pandas. This just helps with some of the numbers. We're going to import random because I don't want to generate things one by one. I want to let the power of the computer do that. We're going to have date time elements. So we're going to import from date time, import date time and time delta. And we're going to import OS. All right. So we're going to go ahead and make our main function here. And inside the main function, we're going to use several for loops so it iterates through. What I want is the projects to have at least 10, I think we're going to make 12 projects. I want them to have a unique ID, and then I want each one of the budgets and the invoices to refer back to that unique ID for that project. If you don't use unique IDs in every single table in your database, oh my gosh, please start, okay? Because it just makes the logic for everything from creating relationships in Power BI to modeling in Tableau to even dev work so much easier. Make unique IDs for every single column, please. Okay, so first and main one, I'm going to do generate fake data. And let's go ahead and initialize Faker first. The next thing is I want to set like a random seed for reproducibility. So it just takes that random seed and is like, cool, okay, I'm going to go through it and generate it 42 different times. Let's stick with 42. So we're going to do random from the random seed 42, and we're going to initialize it as faker seed 42. Now I want to set the number of projects that we're going to iterate through. So num projects, let's say it's 12. And I want it to go past 12 months for like the budgets and invoices. So I'm going to set the number of months to, let's do 19. 18 would be too obvious. And let's give it a start date to start generating some of those fake dates. So we're going to do start date. Let's do date time, and let's start it in 2024. Let's do January 1st, like make it simple. Now I want to generate a pool of random vendors, and each one being unique, right? So I'm going to establish as a number of vendors. I want 20 different vendors. And then initialize vendors using faker. So I'm going to do fake.company for in range the number of vendors. So right here, this is one of those built-in methods for faker, and it's just going to go ahead and make a bunch of fake company names. Okay, now let's do our first, let's initialize an empty list to hold our projects. Boop. And now let's do our first for loop. So this is where we're going to generate a bunch of the fake data for the projects, and you'll see this is going to pop out 3 different CSV files. So for I in range number of projects, for each project we want to make a bunch of fake data, and the first thing we're going to do is do a project ID I plus 1. Okay, so it takes the iterative, which project we're on, +1. And then we do project name. And we're just going to use that fake company one. Okay, plus project. So if it's like the fake name of like Garth, then it's going to be Project Garth. That's actually a pretty cool project name. And then start date. We're going to do start date plus time delta days equals rand int. And we're going to 0 to 30. So it can start anywhere between day 1 all the way to day 30. So we've got some variance in start date because nobody likes fake data that like looks the same. And then end date, we are going to do start date plus time delta. And we're going to do days equals 30 plus, so they're at least going to run 30 days. Oops, we're going to times this. Multiplied by the number of months plus rand int -15 to 15. Something's wrong there. What did I miss? Start date plus time delta days 30 equals number of months plus rand int. Why is that awkward? Oh, because I forgot my comma. There we go. All right, so we're going to take the end date, and the end date is going to be the start date plus the time delta, which the time delta is at least 30 days times the number of months, Okay, and remember, number of months is 19, so every project will run at least 19 plus a random integer anywhere from -15 to +15. So it could run anywhere between, 14 to 15 plus 19. Somebody do the mental math and you got it. Okay. All right. Manager name. We want to give everyone a manager name because we're going to see how many managers have projects. So we're going to do fake name. I love this aspect of it. Manager, especially if you're dealing with like fake human data, like just awesome. And fake email, like awesome, right? And then we want to do department. And we're going to do random choice because I don't want just, you can just do like a random name or a random company or something and it will come up with some crazy stuff or a random string. I actually want it to make somewhat sense with my visualizations. So that's why I'm not fully using all of Faker's random stuff, but interjecting also some lists that we can iterate through to make the data a little bit more believable. And this comes in handy when you're doing customer facing information, R&D. All right, so we've got 5 different departments that it will randomly run through and assign to each project. All right, let's see. Let's give them a region because we could do some map work. That might be cool. Fake country. We're going to use fake countries. Okay. And I forgot my comma again. Okay. And let's go ahead and do a total budget, not budget. And I want to round. Do random dot uniform. I mean, you don't even need Faker to be honest. We just use the random library, but there's certain aspects like fake name, fake email, fake company that I just really like out of the Faker library. Let's do at least $100,000. That's 3. Yep, that's it. Let's actually make a minimum of $200,000. Yeah, to 2 million. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That sounds good. Okay, and decimal points is up to 2. Okay. Status. Again, a random choice because every project has a status, right? So we're going to do active, completed, on hold, and canceled. Okay. So now we'll have our dictionary of projects. And it's going to iterate through, and for every time it creates all this fake data, where it's going to append the projects list with project. And then projects. Data frame, and we're going to save it as a data frame. Projects. It doesn't like my projects. It is defined. Oh, that's because I need to have it in my for loop. There we go. All right, so we want to keep all of this in the main function, and alignment matters. So this needs to come right after this for loop. It can't come all the way out here because then it takes it out of the main function. Okay, so the next for loop that we're going to do is we want to generate some monthly budget stuff. So monthly budgets is our notes. And again, I'm going to make a list to hold my wonderful budget data. And I'm going to make a for loop for project in projects. So for each project in our dictionary of projects, we are going, or data frame actually of projects, we are going to take the project ID and we're going to add it to each budget. because I want it related easily. And then we're going to do a current date equals start date. And I'm going to do another nested loop here for m in range. This nested loop is going to deal with the number of months and actually creating the invoices itself. We're going to do month budget. This one we're going to use round. And we're just going to make random budget for the month. Make it from 5,000 to, well, let's up that because we made our budget bigger. Let's do 10,000 to, yeah, 50,000 sounds good. 2, 3, yeah. Now what's interesting is because the budget is not necessarily tied to the total budget here. So to make those two match, you'd have to add some more code, right? But I'm okay if my monthly budgets for each project add up and exceed the total budget, because I'll just use that as variance and showing some visualizations. But if you need the two to be tied together, the code gets a lot more complex. But this is just for simple to show you that, hey, you can create your own fake data. You don't have to sit there and search for fake data that doesn't meet your needs. All right, so we've got month budget. Now for every budget in our list, we want to append it with a new one because it's empty right now, right? We're gonna add the project ID. Whoop. I can't type. We're gonna do a month and a year. So we're gonna do current date because that was our start date. Or current date is equal start date. We're gonna format it. And that's what the string formatting time is. And we want to do year, wrong character there, year, and month. Does that look right? Okay. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna assign it a budgeted amount. And that's going to be that month budget that was generated here. And then we want a forecasted expenses. So this one's going to be round month budget times random. We're going to use random to generate that forecasted budget. So I'm going to take the month budget, I'm going to multiply it by a random decimal place. So we're going to do 0.6 or 0.8 or 1. Oops. We'll do 1.1. So we have some that exceed the budget, right? And then 2. And the next thing is I want to give it a category. I want my budgets to be like, what is the expense category, right? So we're going to use random choice here, and I'm going to use a list. So labor, maybe material, maybe travel, that's software, right? And we'll just do other. Sounds good to me. Okay, and I'm missing something because there's a squiggly line right here. I'm missing commas. There we go. Squiggly line fixed. Okay, so we have our inner for loop for the budgets. Okay. Last thing we need to do is, this is for the current date, which is equal to start date, right? So we need to move the budget to the next month because I want to generate budgets for several months, right? So we're going to do current date plus time delta days equals 30. I know some months have 31 days, but we are just going to pretend it is 30 days, okay? That the budget is a rolling 30 days and doesn't go by calendar days, okay? Just for fun. All right, so that moves the budget every time it iterates and creates it through another 30 days forward. Okay, and the last thing we want to do is append our list, our empty list, budgets df equals pd data frame budgets. Woo. So after it's gone through and it's built out this list, we convert the budgets list to a data frame. And that just helps us print it out and save it. So now let's move on to our invoices. So kind of the same thing as the budgets. I want to create invoices for every month, right? So we're going to do a empty list here. We want to give every invoice an ID. And for project, in projects, and this invoice ID is going to change. We're just going to initialize it as one. For projects and projects, so for every project, we're going to use a project ID. We're going to match that to the project. We're going to use the current date as the start date of the project, right? Now we want to generate a bunch of random invoices for each month. So for M in range, number of months, it's the number of months up for that project. We're going to do number of invoices, whoops, equals random rand int 1 through 5. So what I want is, instead of an invoice for every month, like one invoice per month, we're going to have random invoices for each month. So some projects might have 5 invoices, some projects might have 1, etc. Because then we can show the variance, like if a project has 3 vendors and each month they send in an invoice, or maybe some projects only have a vendor that invoices once a month, etc. It shows a little bit more realistic variance. Okay. All right, so we got our number of invoices. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Now we're going to do our, actually, hold on, that doesn't make sense. Oh, that does, okay. So now we're going to do another inner for loop. Invoices. I think for a second. So now we want to go through, and for each invoice, we want to create an invoice date. So we're going to use a current date plus a time delta days. We'll use random and a random int to give like a random day. And we're going to do 0 to 29. Again, I know some months have 31 days, but just for the sake of fakeness, okay? And then we want to have an amount, and we want it randomized, right? So I'm going to round it up, but I'm going to do random uniform. All them all be the same. We're going to do like 1,000 to like 35,000. Yeah, let's do that. That sounds good. I just need some numbers. And then we want to assign like random vendors. So we're going to do random choice. And it's going to take it from our vendor list. All right, so now for each one of these, we are going to add a bunch of fake data. So we're going to append our invoices list. It's going to have an invoice ID. Ah. We're going to have a project ID. Okay, so we're going to add our project ID. I also want to have the vendor name, right, for each invoice. Oh gosh, I can't spell. I want to make a fake vendor address too. So we're going to use Faker to create an address. Again, Faker's great if you have like to create fake personal data, right? We're going to do an invoice date. We're going to do the date string for time. And I want to format it like, I'm going to do year. I'm going to do month and day. Why did I do that? Okay. And let's see, we want to do an amount, right? Every invoice needs an amount. We're going to pull that from the amount that we did up here, which is that random generated amount between $1,000 and $35,000. Okay. And then let's add in a description. And let's use Faker, and we're going to do fake sentence. This is where the Faker gets a little crazy because the sentences will be gibberish, but it's fine for this purpose. If you need like descriptions that make more sense, I've used Faker and then of course random to go through that list and assign fake sentences. But if you can handle just some random gibberish sentences like lopsum ipsum, then this works just fine. So let's set number of words, number of base words to 10. And let's do payment status. And let's use random from a list of choice because I don't need like super crazy payment statuses. So we've got paid, pending, it might be pending, and overdue. I love how I switch between single quotes and double quotes. Now let's also add a category because that'll make some good, nice visualizations, like how many invoices from different categories. And we're going to do a random choice from a list as well. Let's do labor, just like budgets, labor, material, travel, software. I guess I could have saved the choices to a list, a variable, and then reference that. I guess I could have done that. That probably would have been easier. And then let's go ahead and do currency. And let's do fake currency code. Not current date. Currency code. Not rake. Fake. And then let's go ahead and do X amount. And this one we're going to do the round function. We're going to take the amount and we're going to multiply it by our random decimal. So I'm going to do random uniform. Let's do 0.05, 0.15, and let's do 0.08. Yeah. I forgot my comma there. Okay, there we go. So now for each one of these invoices, we're going to move the ID up one. So I'm going to do invoice ID. So the ID is unique, right? A +1. And then for each month, I want to move, right? So I don't necessarily want I want the invoices to move every 30 days. So current date, so I'm going to move the current date, use time delta, days equals 30. And then we are going to append it and invoices, change it, save it to a data frame. There we go. All right, so we have our functions that create fake invoices, fake budgets, and fake projects. Now at this point, what we want to do is we want to export the data frames to a CSV. I guess if you're used to Jupyter Notebooks, you could do this in Jupyter Notebooks. I've done that a lot. I just have moved away and started using VS Code for everything. All right, so we're going to save it to a CSV file so that we can export it. And then the next thing I'm going to do in a different video is import it into Postgres database and then connect it to Superset. So we're going to do output directory fake. We're going to give that a title, fake project data, and ls make dirs output directory. If it exists, it's okay. True. Thank you, VS Code, for auto-correcting. All right, so we're going to save it as projects. We got to take our data frame for our projects to, wow, CSV, OS, join. I'm going to take the output directory. We're going to name the file projects up CSV. And we're going to say the index equals false because we're gonna make a hard index. And I'm going to copy and paste this because it's going to be the same for each one. And I'm just going to change the name of the file. So then we have budgets, right? And we're going to change this to budgets. And this is going to be invoices. Okay. And let's go ahead and print some success, right, when we run this. We're going to use the f-string generated fake data for num projects. Spanning number of months. And then the next line will generate print another f-string files saved to output directory. Sounds good. All right, let's go ahead and make a main block here. And if whoop, whoop, whoop. All right, let's go ahead and run this. Okay, Python project data.py. Oh, I forgot. Uniform only takes 3. Or those little things you forget about. Only takes 3 positional arguments, so we can only have 2 different random uniforms. I forgot about that. All right, let's save this. Awesome. All right, it worked. All right, so if we look at it, we've got some projects, budgets, right? We've got invoices and projects all saved to our file. So now from this point, I can take this data, I can import it into a database of my choice, and I can pull it into an application or a visualization software, which my next steps are going to be to upload it to Postgres and then pull it into Apache Superset. So thanks for watching. Hopefully, if you're not familiar with Faker with Python, you'll feel adventurous to test it out. And the next time you need some fake data to play with, you'll generate your own. All right. Thanks so much.